Right.
Right.
Well then.
Well then.
Grommit.
Evening, Grommit.
Evening, Grommit.
Evening, Grommit.
We're not out of clay yet, the very force of our life. Grommit.
Not even Wednesday, though.
Aardman had to put out a statement because of all the hubbub about people like, oh no, Aardman, you're going to run out of clay? Because like the factory they had been sourcing their clay, which is apparently, however it was formulated, was quite well suited to like good figures and then not like softening under the lights too much and things like that. And they're like, don't worry. They put out a statement. We're like, we're fine. We'll find alternate solutions. This is okay. We've been working on this and anticipating this for a while. But it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Goes to show that Aardman still has a special place in the hearts of the wider culture. So,
Oh, quite. They're good stuff.
Wallace and Gromit
And also,
being
like-
all-time greats in the fictional realm.
It's the last bastion of claymation in the mainstream.
And arguably the biggest bastion of claymation in the mainstream.
It's the only bastion of claymation in the mainstream.
Since Gumby.
Right.
But who
Like,
today
everyone
remembers
knows
Gumby?
the classic great holidays with a Z.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, that's right.
Yep. That's
Brought to you by
That
Walmart.
brought to you by Walmart and Campbell's.
Campbell's chicken noodle
My
soup.
homemade
My
chicken
homemade Campbell's chicken noodle soup.
the holiday classic.
The well-known, extremely notorious holiday classic.
Starring
Holidays with the Z.
Fred Savage.
Starring Fred Savage. A pretty star-studded cast, honestly. I think we've talked about this.
All things
shtick
considered.
on the
Probably
show
in the
before,
Christmas
but
special we did.
We've been over a
back.
couple of Christmases in this podcast, and I
Yeah.
think it would come up around that time.
This is going to probably come out, if I remember to upload previous podcasts.
It'll be in the season of Advent.
It will be well within Advent, I think,
Right
the way
now
things
we're
are going.
on the cusp of Turkey Day.
Yes, once again. We're going to continue to screw with your concept of time because in the last episode we will have talked about how that episode is coming out just after Thanksgiving, but we're going to still talk about how it's almost Thanksgiving.
Because we record these in advance now. Mm-hmm. On purpose, totally.
Definitely
100% on purpose. That this is weeks ahead of what episode we're on.
Because we are that anticipatory of random thing happening and James forgetting to upload an episode.
Which is
We just know. We just factor it in. Okay, in this case it was Theology on Tap, and that's why I didn't do it. Okay, I'll upload tonight, so you'll be listening to.
You'll be
They'll be all
2
listening
weeks
to
ago.
this 2 weeks from now.
The 2 episodes ago will have been uploaded as of the recording, or shortly after the recording of this episode.
So
Recorded
stay tuned for that.
just prior to Thanksgiving. But that episode will come out also prior to Thanksgiving. And the episode we just recorded in the past will be coming out in the future.
Isn't time lovely?
I just had to lean into it because John was calling me out for that over the weekend. It's like, it's screwing with my brain. I was like,
That's precisely why the going wisdom is that you don't talk about the time unless it's coming out, like unless you're releasing
timely.
the episodes as
Promptly.
you are recording them.
I mean, it's hard to break a habit because for the most part,
We have
that's how
almost
we've-
always done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been timely.
Regardless of the conventional wisdom.
Well, conventional wisdom has hardly been a key motivating factor in anything we've done in this podcast.
That we are neither conventional nor wise about a lot of this.
Certainly never at the same time.
At the same time.
About the same things.
We can be wise at times.
That's
We can be
true.
conventional at times. Both at the same time?
I mean, conventionally wise is what we
If
can
you
all
can't-
aspire to.
If you can't stand me at my conventional, you don't deserve me at my wise.
That's great. Come for the convention, stay for the wisdom.
That's a good wordplay. You know, come for the convention.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. My marketing brain comes out sometimes. Then I have to put it back.
Conventional wisdom is to, reserve your booth at the venue in advance.
Auxiliary wisdom is stuff like your dad saying technically true, but sort of off color things. And by your dad, I mean your dad specifically. That's unconventional wisdom.
Audibly points
Quite.
at Nathan.
Yep.
No, my dad's full of that. Full of whimsy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if whimsy is quite what I'd call it.
No, I wouldn't characterize it that way either.
See, there's a
Certainly whims.
No. There's a line in a Marx Brothers movie where somebody describes Groucho as like, "Oh, you're so full of whimsy." You're like, "Well, that must be the radishes." Mm-hmm. That's the thing Dad likes to quote because it's a weird thing.
Yep.
Old school Marx Brothers actually is pretty good. Like
Is that comedy duo?
the comedy quartet, sometimes trio, depending on whether Zeppo's in the episode.
Gotcha.
But like, it's a lot of like very vaudeville comedy.
Oh, sure.
So it's very like snappy back and forth dialogue. You blink and you miss. Well, you blink with your ears and you miss the whole joke.
Audibly blink.
Audibly blink with your ears.
But like, and it's also like some of it's very a little bit dated in terms of like the kind of humor it is. But it's also like, I don't know, just clean and charming. And like Groucho's a dirtbag, but it's fun to listen to him go.
Yeah. At least he's not a teenage dirtbag.
Yep.
Anyway,
Yeah,
yeah.
you guys ever that earworm where Teenage Wasteland and
The Baba O'Reilly.
Yeah.
See, I've always called it Teenage Wasteland too.
It's called Baba O'Reilly.
called
I had to
O'Reilly, but-
make a point of remembering that as the title because a Teenage Wasteland is like the hook.
Yep.
It's only Teenage Wasteland.
It's
but
always-
I get that earworm where I hear teenage dirtbag in that
You think
melodic progression.
But yep.
Teenage dirtbag.
What's Teenage Dirtbag from? I didn't quite.
It's like a punk song.
Okay,
from
that's
like
why I don't know it.
Late 90s. I think it's punk,
Yeah, it's kind of that pop punk sort of thing.
like Blink 182 style stuff.
See, whenever I
that
hear the
vein.
word dirtbag, I always think of the scene in Over the Hedge,
Oh,
where RJ has been lying to the whole crew. The raccoon, the Bruce Willis raccoon, has been lying to the whole crew about why he needs.
that
the
was
food.
Bruce Willis.
Yep.
All right.
But like they're like watching TV later in the movie, like right before the third act misunderstanding lie revealed trope.
And there's like a character on the TV.
And there's like a bunch. They're flipping through the channels, and it's a bunch of like breakup and like, and there's this one like talk show. They flip through. And it's like, Johnny, when you feel like a dirtbag, sometimes you just say it out loud. I am a dirtbag, and he mouths it.
Yep. I'm
That's
recalling.
that movie is like one of the weird like. It's not great, but it's really fun in specific
It's
areas.
open season caliber, like slightly
I
above.
guess I never saw open season.
It's extremely okay.
There's like some aggressively
9.
mediocre films out there.
Yeah? 9! Yeah? That's like the one quote that I remember from... I forget even what animal it is, but it's a German...
Oh,
Open Season, yeah.
There's the Scottish squirrel was the most memorable part of open season for me.
Where is it set that there's a Scottish squirrel and a German thing?
There's just a Scottish squirrel.
There's just
Don't
a variety of animals all
Yeah.
in the woods.
Gotcha. One of them's got a Scottish accent.
And then,
because-
of course,
It's like the whatever Gen 8 trainer being Scottish.
yeah. I think it was, what's the guy's name that did Billy Bones?
Billy Connolly.
Billy Connolly.
Billy Connolly.
I think he did the squirrel for that naturally.
Really?
Or
that
maybe,
guy's got such a
I
lovely
actually
voice.
no, I think it was some random Scottish guy. But the bit I remember the most is the dear Elliot finding a cup of coffee in a garbage can, drinking some of it, going yuck, drinking some of it again, going yuck, and it's like it's terrible and wonderful at the same time. It's like freedom in a cup. I was like, that line was way too loaded for a kid's show of this caliber.
Right, like that belongs in something that's more cleverly written where it would fit
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
It's like the one. Sometimes like mediocre or bad movies will have that one bit that's like oh, you were so close to being good. You could have been in a good movie, and that would have been funny. But you're the best part of this movie, and I guess I'll respect you for that.
There was, let's see. Yeah, I think Bill Hader was like the villain guy for that or something.
That sounds right.
Yeah. There was, I had a neighbor growing up. His name was Elliot. And then when this movie came out and the mean other deer that likes to bully him calls him Smelliot. So naturally, what does my neighbor kid get called in school every day like once that movie came out? So that's something I remember about that. But open season, I'm sure I've talked about this on the podcast before, but one day when that film came out, we had been like redoing the flooring in our kitchen, like putting tile in and whatever. And so my mom needed to get my two little brothers, who were 3 and 4 at the time, I believe, out of the house because they were going nuts, being restricted to only like a certain portion of the house because we were putting tile in. So we went to go watch Over the Hedge in theaters.
Oh, okay.
And so we got there a little bit late. And Aaron and Andre have never been to a movie before. And we open the door into the big dark room, and there's a giant bear on the screen growling very loudly on these big booming speakers. I remember Aaron locking his arms and knees and us having to drag him into the movie theater.
No.
We were just like, hey, come on, you're coming in.
You're going to like
We
it.
promise this will be fun. I think he was okay eventually, but that initial shock of like big dark room, large, evil looking face on the screen, he was not prepared for.
Mm-hmm.
That was quite a vivid image in my head. But yeah, Over the Hedge, it's fun. You know, my favorite low budget kind of throwing 3D animation at the wall to hope it sticks for audiences, though, is probably Hoodwinked.
Dude,
for the quality of the animation, that show is way better than it has any right to.
The quality of the animation is bad even by the standards of the time it came out.
Yeah,
but the writing is on point.
Yes,
and the cast is on point.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's
a Little Red Riding Hood whodunit.
Right.
It's great. I love that movie. Although I remember one time Ben and I were watching it at the Newman Center, and Father Cheney does one of his check-ins or whatever, and like finishes the movie with us, and he's like, "This is really stupid." yes, it is.
Yeah,
it's wonderful.
Like sometimes you look at this objectively, and it's like, this is stupid, but also like, why do I like this? But also, I really like this.
Anne Hathaway in her breakout voice acting role. No, common with open season. You have, why am I forgetting his name? Kronk.
Patrick Warburton.
Patrick Warburton.
He's an open season?
He's an open season. He's like the big mean deer.
Oh, okay.
And he's the wolf.
Yep.
But the best part, hands down, of Hoodwinked is the wolf and Twitchy the squirrel.
They're incredibly fun.
Yes, it's such a good time. I remember when we rented that movie, I was like maybe 12-ish, 11 or 12 or something like that. So every time Twitchy was on the screen, I was just like rolling laughing.
You were the target audience for that film.
A frenetic, demented cartoon character is very much my sense of humor.
Which I probably would have been the same age when we first borrowed it from the library or watched it on Netflix or whatever it was. That was back when, so we lived on 40 acres in like central Minnesota area. And we lived for like the first 5 years of my life, we lived in like a trailer house that was parked there. But then Dad built a whole really nice house out there. It was really nice. And and our den had a blank wall and a projector. So we watched a lot of movies on a big screen projector, like just on the wall. That's like, I kind of miss that sometimes. Cause it was like,
you guys still have the projector?
I think we may have somewhere. I think we might have sold it because we didn't have bulbs for it anymore.
Oh, sure, yeah. Those things are expensive.
Yeah, exactly. Probably not worth maintaining, but it was cool when we had it, and it was.
We would occasionally watch movies on the projector my dad had for work. It was for giving presentations or like to have at trade shows and things like that. So we did that occasionally. I think that's because we got one of our first things we got. That was how we could watch DVDs. Because we had a few DVDs, and so you could play them on the computer because we didn't have a DVD player yet. So we would hook up. We wanted to watch a DVD. It would be Walking with Dinosaurs, National Parks of the U.S., Singing in the Rain, and Finding Nemo were the DVDs that we had.
So those are the first DVDs you remember having?
Yeah.
The first DVDs I remember...
Oh, and Sands of Iwo Jima. I can't forget that.
The first DVDs I remember we got was The Secret Garden and A Little Princess.
We had those on VHS.
And...
I remember not liking Secret Garden very much. But I was also too young to think very critically.
I mean, same. It was like the cripple kid was a brat.
Yeah. Yeah, he sucked. I do remember that.
Do you remember the first DVDs your family ever possessed?
The one that's most obvious is the an eclectic collection of the Pokemon episodes.
Nice.
Oh, sure.
There's a few. I think we had Lady and the Tramp on DVD.
Okay.
For some reason instead of a VHS, because we had all the other classic Disneys on VHS.
Same.
There was one other, and it's escaping me. Planet Earth came in shortly after that, which was a lot of content. But Planet Earth was fun. I enjoyed that.
Like the nature documentary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just had the entire planet downloaded on a DVD.
Correct.
No big deal.
You know what's one of the biggest blown opportunities in nature documentaries? Oh, wait, no, it was March of the Penguins. I was going to make a joke about how it should have been Walking with Penguins, like Christopher Walken. But they did Marching with Penguins with Morgan Freeman instead. Oh, well.
Oh, well.
Speaking of blown opportunities,
we could have done a smooth transition there. We're the Plating Papists. I'm James.
I'm Nathan.
and I am Reilly.
And actually, blown opportunities relates to the topic a little bit, actually.
What are we calling it? We're calling this a Saltcast because it's a topic and we have
I don't know. It's kind of a Saltcast.
It's not really a Saltcast, but that's the bumper.
It's more of a sad cast, you know?
Yes. I'm using that because that's the bumper we have, and we have not come up with like a normal topic bumper
we ought
yet.
to.
We should, but the Saltcast bumper is fun, so I'm putting it in.
It's our second chance to use it. I'm not going to complain too hard.
No.
Yeah, no. So here you go.
Saltcast warning. Saltcast warning. Saltcast warning. Saltcast warning.
This is a big bummer for me.
There, I hope you enjoyed that.
I had fun.
We enjoyed making it more than justified. So yeah, our topic for today is multiplayer games, and we're doing a topic. We're not doing any.
We're not
specific.
covering a specific thing this week.
We're trying the topic thing again.
And the thing that kind of spurred this discussion in my mind, at least, was kind of my dissatisfaction with multiplayer games as of late. And I think a non-zero part of that is just my development as a human, and like the sort of gameplay loops that multiplayer games often feature don't really appeal to me anymore, as they did when I was a teenager, and could just kind of grind my face off and just have things be highly repetitive.
I have all the time in the world to spend on this. Of course I can do 16 hours to get this item.
Right. And even aside from that, like when our little friend group, me and John and James and Bryant and others, like just get together and play Halo, I'm like, this is okay, but like I'd honestly rather spend time with these guys, just like
hanging out,
drink whiskey and hang out. Like,
yep.
There's something about the multiplayer game experiences that most people will be like, oh, this is a way to hang out. And I'm like, sure, but also like I want to hang out in a way that's meaningful, like. And a lot of the multiplayer games these days don't really provide a way to do that.
Like, in theory, a multiplayer game should be a more meaningful, like, hangout session than sitting on the couch and watching a movie.
Well, it could.
It could be. It has potential.
Like for our group, we kind of have this shared mentality about how we do movies, and like they can be something really cool for us to talk about and think about and share with y'all on the podcast. But yeah, you're right, from a certain angle, like it should provide an interactive way, in a way that's kind of creates, there's participation in it. It's not,
There should be
it's less
fellowship.
monodirectional.
Yeah.
It's because it's also distinct from board games or card games, for example.
And I don't have those same difficulties with board games for some reason, and I haven't super pinned down why that is.
Yeah.
Well, I also have quite a bit of experience with multiplayer games, but not so much with online. I never really got big into online.
Except for Smash.
Well, here's the thing. Even Smash, I did play some online, but it's strictly a downgrade from playing in person with somebody just because the servers are so awful. But, like, when I play Smash Bros., I want to have my bro right next to me so I can
Talk trash.
talk trash. I was going to, like, well, it's called Smash Bros., but also... But
He's got to be within slapping distance so
right,
he can
exactly.
live up to the name.
Well, I should also be in slapping distance in case I do something that's obnoxious. But, like,
In
also,
case you
like...
want to take this outside.
But, like, I grew up with, like, Mario Kart. It's
Yeah.
like half the games we owned as kids were bought for us because Mom, A, recognized the brand, and B, saw 4 players on it. Like, on the corner. It's like, oh, then nobody has to be left
This
out.
has minimal amount of potential conflict in
Right,
terms of
exactly.
who gets to play.
Exactly. But even when we were playing single-player games, we would find ways to turn it into multiplayer by sitting on the couch next to each other and doing stupid voices. Or having Andrew on the bed behind us with his guitar, playing the sad chords every time Chewbacca fell down a hole.
Yep.
It's a whole bit, and it's fabulous.
With
But, like,
impeccable comedic timing.
oh, absolutely. But, like, modern, like, mainstream multiplayer games have learned a lot from mobile games about how to keep people engaged
Live
with questionable ethicalness to it.
Loot boxes.
Yeah.
Daily
Battle
Microtransactions.
pass.
It turns what should be a multiplayer experience into a grindy single-player experience that happens to have other people doing the same thing.
It turns
next
it into a part-time job.
It turns it into a work. Like, it's supposed to be fun. I'm not
And they even-
supposed to feel like I have stuff to accomplish per se. Like that is enforced upon me by the creators and not self-driven
Yep.
at a minimum. But like, I don't really like that kind of jobby feel of a game. Like when it forces me to do things just to kind of stay relevant with it.
And when you say live service and battle pass, usually your brain goes to, like Fortnite or like Apex. But they retroactively shoehorned it into the Chaster Meef collection. And
Diablo 4.
it's in multiverses.
It's in everything now. It's obnoxious.
It's in Crash Team Racing remake. Which, that's just a kart racer. You should just have a couple unlockable dudes, and that should be enough. But no, you gotta race every day to unlock XYZ characters. Like, dude, why can't you just make a complete game and then sell it to people and then let them play that complete game with each other?
The obvious answer is that
money.
it's more profitable to do otherwise.
Yep. If you, from a business standpoint, if you have the option between steady, predictable, consistent revenue and occasional, hopefully successful products that get put out
That depends
periodically.
upon you putting in effort and thorough testing and all this. Like,
Lots of upfront
the live
cost.
service model has done a lot of damage to gaming as a whole. You no longer have to create something that you'd bet on. Like, everything is just a reiteration of some other franchise. There's just so little original anything made anywhere.
It's a lot of hedging your bets.
Yeah.
Because it's profitable. That's why they do it. The part of the responsibility for us as players is to not pay for those things. Like, that's the only thing that's going to talk, is if we stop buying them.
Yeah.
And I will say, we've got, like, your Apexes and your whatever, your big AAA titles that do these things. If you look more toward the smaller scale and the indie, you do get a lot more, like, legit multiplayer passion projects that are built with, like, the respect for what came before and trying to iterate on it. Mm-hmm. Like, you've got there was a Ninja Turtles beat 'em up that came out just recently. That was like small. It wasn't like indie because it's Ninja Turtles, but it's like smaller scale pixel art. But it's like the modern version of Turtles in Time. It's 4 players. You can do online or couch, and it's like this. And it's just a straightforward, complete game. Same goes with like you got Streets of Rage 4 and the River City Girls games doing something similar with that. Or like you got indie like. Oh, I had a couple other I had thought of. But stuff like, Don't Starve or you're Grounded or
I was gonna say, like, Grounded is one of the things that's been an exception to that for me lately.
It Takes Two and
A Way Out.
A Way Out, which are smaller scale studios who aren't interested in making all the money.
Well, their goal is to make an excellent experience.
Right. And
the thing that I like about the development philosophy of A Way Out and other such titles is, like, they have a mind to make a multiplayer game that's, like, kind of has a lot of the salient characteristics of the single-player story-driven stuff that really appeals to me. And, like, how can we make an experience that makes the players work together in a way that's different than just, like, everyone's doing the same thing at the same time, and there's
Captures
there's
that
unique
Lego Star
roles
Wars
for each of the
co-op.
characters throughout all these sequences, and you have to, like, sync your walking up the wall, and, like, those kind of gameplay bits are, like,
also
really fun.
it gives you like great like linear things where it's like, oh, here's the parts where we cooperate. But then it breaks off and gives you like little open areas where you can
Screw around and
mess
play
around
with,
with
the
each
piano.
other.
And the piano in the people's living room, and just like screwing around with like radios and things.
Right.
And just
And wash the dishes.
yep.
Like, I just, like, sat back and I'm like, I'm just washing dishes in a video game
why
right
is this-
now. Why do I like this?
I pet the dog.
I pet the dog again. But like, there's that. It's not only like cooperative like missions that you can go on, but like it also has just the vibe of hanging out. You embody these 2 guys that are getting along as bros,
and having their conflicts and their disagreements of opinion and,
you
all
can
this stuff.
and you can inject your own little trolley disagreements and differences of opinion, and then that's got to be like one of my favorite final sequences of a game I've played in the last 5 years. Honestly, the twist where it's like, oh, suddenly it's not so co-op anymore. It's like, dude, what a way to really turn everything around and make it come full circle. I don't know. It's like that. We've already talked about that game on the podcast.
And then with Grounded, it's
It has
interesting
a-
when you
yeah,
play
go ahead.
survival games, multiplayer survival games, because you have your more open-ended ones like Minecraft, obviously, and 7 Days to Die, things like that, where there's a loop to the gameplay, at least in 7 Days to Die, and there's sort of limited objectives, but there's no grand. I mean, you could argue that like the Ender Dragon, I guess, and stuff in Minecraft, but that was sort of an afterthought.
I think they added it for the Xbox release so that it would have an end.
Yeah.
So I think it's like, oh, okay, the game has an end.
We're
You can put it
literally
on
just going to call it the Ender Dragon. Are you happy? But with particularly with survival games, you need to have that balance between set goals and open ability to be creative and sandbox.
goals versus expression.
Yeah. And so far of the multiplayer games we've done, I think Grounded has done that balance the best, where there's like a story, environmental storytelling, goals you can accomplish together, but there's also things you can do on your own. You can build your own bases, you can do all this stuff, but there's still a goal. You're still trying to escape the backyard together, and each quest is best experienced when you have the whole crew together using your different strengths and abilities. And it's interesting too how the characters in that game are not self-inserts. They each have their own personality, and not really, I mean, everybody has like the same like abilities, but you can specialize into different trees and stuff. But
So like you as a team could decide, oh, I'm going to be the guy that specs into all these with my points early, so that we have like kind of team roles.
But yeah, it's got an endpoint to work towards, because the life cycle of ye old Minecraft server or 7 Days to Die for that matter is you have the initial thing where everybody's working together. You gotta get food and water and all the resources and build our base and all this stuff. and then you experience a little bit of success, get the cool upgraded items, and slowly people's interest in the game just sort of dies off, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas with Grounded, it's remained. I mean, we've had less time to play it recently, but like when we are on, we're still pretty engaged. So that's been an interesting experience. I know that like we were kind of chatting about Grounded the other night in this sort of context. I guess was there anything you had to add to that, or
that covers most of my thoughts on Grounded.
yeah,
Even so, like I just want more way outs.
Yeah.
I want more
yeah.
stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And that to me is really kind of
curated experience is designed to be shared.
right. And not just things that are
Interactively.
multiplayer for the sake of being multiplayer.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of good like single player games that have multiplayer options, or games that are like you could play them either way and it doesn't really matter. Which and those are good and fine, but they're like not the.
I was the weird
best
guy
case
that always
scenario.
bought the shooter for the campaign. I still sort of am. Excuse me. And we have like these multiplayer titles that sort of have shoehorn stories that aren't that great. Nowadays is sort of the norm.
Well, it's because for so long they over-focused multiplayer, and they're like, "Oh, well, people wanted a story in it again." I suppose after 3 games of like ignoring it completely,
Yeah.
so give them one, and well, at least it's there.
Yeah. I've been sort of like in the multiplayer shooter realm. I've been sort of partial to the Battlefield series because it's a very team-based game. It's not you certainly have kill farming, twitchy, ADHD types on there, but not nearly to the extent as say Call of Duty. You know, it's not so much about your individual prowess as much as the way you can contribute with your class or skills or whatever to like, you know, play with the team. I'm generally a more cooperative versus competitive. Like I'm more of a team competitor than a individual competitor so that's sort of what draws me to multiplayer games and like hanging out with friends and stuff. Because I will play Halo, you know, like competitively amongst the friend group, but I get very heated. It's not a state of mind I like to be in. But if we're doing the campaign together and screwing around with skulls and stuff on like Halo 3 or whatever, that's a great time. We'll have to get you through the campaign on co-op, the subsequent Halo games.
Sure,
at some
it
point.
might be more fun. The thing about that is you guys are good at the game, and so I feel like I'm going to have just like a less experience.
Well, I mean, you're just going
But
to
just
melee everything all the way through, so
mean,
we'll
yes.
just allow you to do that without dying and starting over
But it's
over
more
again.
funny when I die.
Yeah, as long as the rest of us stay alive, it doesn't matter.
That's
He can die
true.
as much as he wants.
But I don't
Yeah.
know. I sit down to Halo with you guys, and it's like, okay, I'm here. I'm here in a decent mood, ready to have fun, and I end it feeling very like apathetic. It's like,
Yeah, I mean
okay.
that speaks more to like your
That's my
taste.
taste personally. I for one am not a fan of feeling ineffectual for long periods of time. Which Halo gives me that feeling. Like and other other people respond to different games like that.
Killer Queen is a good fun.
Again, that's a smaller like thing, and it's like an arcade thing specific first and foremost. Like 5v5. It's very different, very unique.
And once again, those sorts of things are just like, I get done playing that, I'm like, I didn't really have that much fun doing that. Like, I don't know. There's just something about it just feels so undirected. And like it doesn't move anywhere, it doesn't have any human element to it other than the sort of I don't know, it's kind of on the peripheries, the experience of just doing the thing together. That's the only
Sure.
thing together that's happening. It's again,
There's a sort of spirit of camaraderie you want to try to inspire with a multiplayer game, I feel like.
but the
or
problem
like-
is that so many of them are competitive, and like that doesn't really is not really accomplished by the competitive thing.
And I enjoy
I don't
a
want to
good
play
competitive
just to
game.
play, and that's what it feels like at the end of a session for so many of those things for me these days.
Sure.
Like I just played this just to play it because other people wanted to play it.
Yeah. So I guess with that, what then do you like look for? Like with these sorts of experiences, like what has that sort of driven you to look for in a multiplayer game?
Well, as I've said, like either some kind of story or something like, again, Grounded's a good example. Like it has this kind of shared goal aspect to it, which is why I enjoyed 7 Days a bit more, because we had these kind of we set our own goals. Yeah, we set our own goals, and it has the zany fun factor for me, at least.
Yeah,
of the wild blood moons. And
yes,
those being fun.
Those can get really interesting.
But yeah, like the way outs are the sort of stuff I want to see and like have a lot of interest in doing, and hopefully on a larger scale.
I imagine that
just
studio is
2
going to keep
players.
working on like new titles in that.
I think so.
It's been a bit since It's been a bit since It Takes Two. They probably got something else up their sleeve they're working on.
I've never really messed with MMOs.
I have.
Yeah,
And that's also part of the discussion too. Is like, in theory, the MMO is like my ideal kind of game. Like, I'm a sucker for fantasy. I love anything fantasy usually, and so like, WoW was really appealing to me, and I never really got into it because I didn't have internet at home until I got into it at the beginning of college, and like, the game had been going for so long that the current tier content took like an extremely long time to get to, and like it's again, the gameplay loop on those is so repetitive usually, and the kind of exploratory contemplative mindset that I kind of like to have, just going around the world and exploring and doing quests.
them's the dryer pal.
The dryers. And the quests are also
You might need to.
one-dimensional and boring. We're just gonna pause it.
No.
I think we're good.
I think we might have to anyway. I think the Grand Junction is coming.
Oh, okay. Un moment.
And the quests aren't really quests. They're kind of just tasks.
Chores.
Yeah. Kill 8 of these things. Go get one of these. Deliver this NPC to this place. Like, it again becomes
Deliver
work.
us.
Deliver us.
Yeah, I've tried my hand at 2 MMOs at the request of a friend. One was EverQuest Online. The other one was like Lord of the Rings Online. And
Shout out to certain former campus minister who is apparently quite a fan of Lord of the Rings Online.
But both of which left me with the feeling that makes me just not care whatsoever about Minecraft, where it's like, okay, what do I do? And why do I care beyond the block of text someone spat at me, you know? And also, like, the combat in those games is very, like, grindy and just auto-tacky and, like, very hands-off. I'm like, oh, I don't have much say aside from, like, some hotbar spells that I haven't leveled up enough to get yet, so I need,
Yeah.
The concept of an MMO is intriguing, like you were talking about. But, like, I feel like the
World of Warcraft popularized a set of mechanics that kind of became a footnote for every other subsequent MMO. And the ones that have tried to shake that formula have not really met with the success that you'd like to see for a variety of reasons. And like Black Desert is one of the ones that I found the combat to be extremely fun and satisfying, and there's just nothing else to it. Like, it's one of those Korean absolutely grind your face off MMOs. And like that, again, just the endless grind doesn't appeal to me. The combat is really visceral and satisfying and has lots of fun combos, and it's a really deep and fun. It just feels really good. And that's all there is to the game, though. And there's, granted, the localization's really bad, and there are some other factors in that, but like, nobody has really successfully kind of shaken the formula while also including the kind of the widespread appeal. Again, I'd have to think more about why exactly that is, but notwithstanding, like, and again, it might just be a WoW continues to hold down its player base, and there's a market share problem with some of it.
And so if you want to tap into the market share, you've either got to look like your WoW but different, or
do something that appeals to
entirely
some
different market.
subset that WoW doesn't cover.
One thing that had a lot of potential and sort of fumbled the execution, in my opinion, was Red Dead Online. Red Dead Redemption 2 Online. Because the whole game is based on you have a gang, right? And you're doing jobs together, but you're also like, you have all these other tasks that you do to like support the clan or whatever. And you go off and do these things. But Red Dead Online had like it's Rockstar, so they kind of went a more GTA 5 Online kind of route where you have jobs to do, heists to pull, things like that, businesses to run, things like that. But like the idea to me of like having your own posse of guys just roaming around the Old West, there's just like a lot of potential, but there wasn't nearly enough like role play potential there. I mean, people made like role play servers of this, and they do for GTA as well, but it kind of fell short, and it also devolved into blatant, just rampant hacking. Like walking around hunting a deer in the woods, and all of a sudden somebody spawns like five giant king alligators on top of you, and it's just like, okay, well, this is screwed. But I really dug Red Dead Redemption 2 and sort of the world and the way you interact with it. So I was kind of disappointed that, and granted, like, it's such a huge game, it's hard to convince your friends on PC to get it because you can get it for cheaper than the main title. And it's just such a huge freaking game, graphically speaking, that it's kind of hard to get widespread.
And the other thing about that is, like, it's got the same problem for me, where it's like, okay, aside from just sitting on Discord with you, why am I here and why do I care? Like, I'm interested in playing the original Red Dead 2, right?
Yep.
I'm interested in playing that game. But, like,
probably on console, I suppose.
What Red Dead Online would need to get me interested at all is to be Red Dead Redemption 3 campaign, but with a posse.
Like a co-op.
Like a co-op posse campaign? That'd be sick. Yeah. I'd be down for that.
They sort of did that. There's like an introductory story for your character.
Sure.
But if that, like you said, if there had been like its own separate, granted, which would have been a gargantuan task because they already, had the first game,
and it's a gargantuan,
the game originally that they had to make a story for, and it's one of the best, like single player experiences out there, in my opinion. It would have been tough to create, but yeah, if they make another one, it would be great if it did have co-op.
But the thing is, it's a gargantuan task that if you tailored the experience to be for a crew of like 4 guys, you suddenly say it's not as accessible. Yeah. Because not everybody has 4 friends willing to play a Red Dead Redemption game online with them.
Yep.
And suddenly that cannot perform as good as anything else because it's just not.
There's so much investment on the part of everyone else who's not quite as interested as you in the thing. And that's kind of been the thing with our friend group and the sort of multiplayer games that
we all have our own. We have a lot of crossover in tastes, but there's some tastes that don't match up.
I'd love to play Diablo 2 with you guys, but John has an ideological warfare against Blizzard, which I don't entirely blame him for, but D2 is one of their OG products, and they did a great job on the remaster, and I think they deserve the money for that, because they made a good game, for once. And it's fundamentally an old game, back when they were good. But they did a great job remastering.
Yeah.
That's the thing. If you want to get a game to sell it all, you either have to have a multiplayer focused game that has a patched iron on patch single player that is lackluster because it's designed for more, or you have a single player game that has a multiplayer option as an iron on patch that is suboptimal because it's designed around single player.
Right. And it'd be really fun, but also just a monstrous development effort to synthesize those things.
But there's a
potential for greatness there.
There's potential for greatness. There's a niche market, which is why
I don't even think it would be niche. I think it would be massively
was-
popular if you could pull that off.
Yeah. If it's
like-
good, then, and is marketed well, people
But
will play
also,
it.
like, for instance, Red Dead, if Red Dead was to make a multiplayer-focused game, it's Rockstar. Mm-hmm. They've pumped gallons of money per cubic inch
And take
of
decades.
each of their games.
Yeah. And it takes decades.
So if they were to, like, if GTA 5 or 6 came out, and it's like, oh, you and your squad can be, like, a gang in this town, and, like, you can play the whole campaign doing gang things together, it would be a neat idea, but it just wouldn't, the cost versus the payoff wouldn't be it, because they've got to model and animate the horse testicles accurately.
Yep.
Because they funnel money into every cubic inch of the game. Mm-hmm. And when it's not necessary, really, but,
Yeah. Although there's something endearing about that going the extra mile from a developer that people appreciate.
Yeah,
Even
as a
if it's-
player
if it's
myself,
silly.
I'm like, I respect that you did that. Mm-hmm. That's what's kind of nice about art. Art is, in a certain sense, inherently wasteful. Mm-hmm. Like, it's specifically unpragmatic
Yeah.
to make art,
That's like one of my
and
favorite.
that's what's kind of beautiful about it.
Yeah.
Is that it doesn't have to be useful.
Just think about, like, classic example being like Fantastic Mr. Fox. You have this very visually dense movie. It's stop motion, so a lot of painstaking effort goes into every little prop and everything in the background, which leads to some great physical gags in the background going on that you would totally miss unless you're paying attention to every square inch. Like, you guys ever read those or look at those I Spy books growing up?
Uh-huh.
Like, I just loved just losing myself in the detail of those things. And when a game can pull that off where you're just kind of like, ooh, look at that boulder. That's a nice boulder.
I do think there's, like, a cost benefit to that, though. Where
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
For sure.
if it's so, like, graphically intensive and, like, so beautiful, like, literally nobody can play it, then
Crisis.
you might have
Yeah.
done something
Does it run crazy?
incorrectly.
Yeah. It's been said that, and in the Catholic speakers circuit gig, the class, like, every time they talk about the differences between men and women, they do some iteration of guys need something outside of themselves to do together. So, I mean, to an extent that's true, and multiplayer games can fit that bill, but we're also noting here's something lacking in just doing something for the sake of doing something, even if you are spending time together. Like, there are other ways to spend time together.
But there's also
And there's for me at least, it kind of takes away from what I want out of spending time together,
Yeah.
which is to share life and to be able to grow in faith and all these kinds of things. And
When my family plays games, it's either a party game that we can all participate in and have fun, or it's like a card game or something that doesn't really require a whole lot of thought, because let's face it, mom wants to play golf and beat her kids and tease them about it, but she really just wants to have us all around a table talking. Mm-hmm. And so a card game is a great way to sort of tie people down for 4 hours when it's supposed to take half an hour. That has happened on multiple occasions. So that's sort of the background I come from, right? Where I'm sort of okay with the thing for the sake of having the thing, because it's getting us in the same room doing something, or in the same space virtually, I suppose. But I understand your point, though,
yeah,
of probably wanting a more conducive to connection and sharing life than having something distracting you in the middle.
right. I don't necessarily need to be doing anything. Doing things is fine. I don't mind it, but there's just something about.
Well, just think of all the times where you have all the bros together and you're playing a multiplayer game and everybody's just sort of playing the game and not talking.
Yeah.
That happens a lot. I mean, sometimes, if we're having a good time and communicating, it's different, but it's are we just playing the game to play the game, or are we trying to spend time with each other? What are we doing here?
Right.
Because when
And
I'm
then-
playing a game just to play the game, there's all kinds of great single player experiences that I could do on my own time. But if there's a multiplayer game we're all super invested in, then that's something I want to do too. So there's a balance, of course.
And there's like, this isn't like an explicitly multiplayer experience, but like I had a lot of fun like watching Nathan play Dark Souls when we lived together. I don't even really
There's
know
our old
why I like
BioShock
that, but it's
playthrough.
really fun just like sharing that experience with
Sitting
him.
on the couch or over Discord with somebody playing a game together, dude.
An
Some of the
allegedly
most
spooky game on Discord, John.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
That was fun, even though it was sort of anticlimactic.
some of the
It was
most
fun.
I have had playing games in general for the last year is my weekly Saturday date with Isaac playing Phoenix Wright.
Yep.
Or the Ace Attorney series. It's just us two hanging out. We're doing voices. We're solving mysteries together. It's co-op multiplayer for a single-player game, and we used to do that a lot. I mean, you got 6 kids in a room, only one player on the controller.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a comment to make about the characters in the background or what the puzzle solution is. Mm-hmm. So like, there's that's kind of the background I come from, right. But also like, I feel like I have a slightly different attitude about competitive games than you guys do. Mm-hmm. I'll sit at a table with mom and play Smear. She likes playing it's playing the game, and she likes the competition, and it's fun. Mm-hmm. But also it is hanging out with dad, with the kids, siblings, and stuff, and the kids. So like, some of the most fun I'll have is I'll go home and I'll bring my Switch, right, and I will get me and my 3 of my younger siblings, usually like Isaac and Sarah and Simon, and we'll fire up Puyo Puyo Tetris.
Ah, yes.
Which is
literal entire weekends at our old house were spent playing that game,
dude. And we're just on the couch next to each other, just talking about whatever, making whatever frantic commentary our brains can come up with while this madness is going in front of us. Mm-hmm. And it gets unhinged, but it's funny. Mm-hmm. It's like it kind of unlocks the part of our brain that used to play with action figures randomly and just say dumb things and hang out in the room,
or like Double Dash, or like some of those classic
or
games.
any number of those things. But recently, it's been Puyo Puyo Tetris, mm-hmm. And so it's slightly competitive. We're like competing against each other, but it's also just we're letting loose and being silly.
Yep,
we get a little silly, particularly Sarah when she gets nervous.
Oh yes, that's always a fun time.
Oh yes, so, but also like. Simon and I have been doing a lot of like one-on-one competitive games. We play a lot of Smash Bros. We play Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, and we play like a My Hero fighting game. Mm-hmm. And it's a battle of wits at its core, right? It's
minus the Iocane.
Minus the Iocane, but like every competitive game is about,
at least I hope,
a mind game, Mm-hmm. It all boils down to a mind game with several layers of execution on top of it. And so it's fun to like talk about our strategies and to figure each other out, but also like you kind of get to figure out how they think a little bit, it's you can be intentional about it. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be mean competitive, or if you're mean competitive, you can be funny about it and good-natured about it. But I think that's also like
James audibly grimacing. It's very specific memories.
Well, I think that's actually the thing that I loathe about Mario Party. Mm-hmm. Is my competitive brain wants to have a strategy and control.
Yep.
The entire rest of the game says no.
Yep. Explicitly not. This is
not about that. But I'm like, this is a 4-player game where we're competing over a goal. I would like to be slightly competitive about this. And if I'm not allowed to be competitive about this, then I will make myself such a bother to play with that you never want to invite me to play this game ever again. Because I just have anti-fun with that. Because I'm trying to enjoy it in a way that I enjoy games, and it's just not letting me. Mm-hmm. And that's entirely a me problem. If I had a different mindset or different tendencies, but that's just not the personality I have playing games in general. So no,
there are some awfully great moments playing Nintendo Land, chasing each other around the map on that one game and stuff like that.
That's again just the good silly fun of friends on a couch.
Wii Sports, classic, Wii Resort, that sort of thing.
which with Wii Sports, that's usually like one person playing, everyone else making commentary on them, right?
Yep.
That's us doing golf commentary.
Yes.
As you
i.e. the
solve
Bioshock,
Bioshock puzzles.
playthrough. I think the most viewed one has 8 views, if last I checked. But if you feel so inclined, and that's something maybe I know we've talked about doing like a bunch of sessions of like you playing Sonic Adventure 2 and like amongst ourselves, right? Like having one of us play a single player game and like the rest of us like sharing that, like, you know, peanut
like,
gallery
like
type
bros
style.
on the couch.
Yeah.
Commentary. It's actually like when I've been streaming more recently, I've got like 2 or 3 like consistent guys that'll be like the pros on the couch with me, just like making commentary and like giving me hints. I'm like, oh, that's fun. It's like it gets a similar vibe, even though it's like separated by a wall of the
Right.
internet anonymity and chat. But it's like multiplayer gaming is about community ultimately, right? And it's about being in community with each other. And so like it's about how you different people are geared toward experiencing community a little bit differently because of their personalities, right? There's obviously the common needs we all have in growing in relationship and growing in faith and growing in holiness and such. But like different people are going to want to spend time differently. Some people won't want
to find that common denominator at the end of the day.
Right. And I feel like
the problem is so often that the common denominator
It
is
is
too
the
low.
lowest common denominator.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's actually kind of a thing that I've noticed with our friend group, right? It's like there's sometimes things that like you and people will click with, or me and some other people will click with, or like it's never quite all of us at the same time. Usually one person is having decidedly less fun playing whatever game we are playing, whether it's a board game or a video game. And that's like just a thing you got to balance, right?
Right. Yeah, that's bound to happen.
Speaking of which, when am I going to torment you in 4 Sword Adventures?
Oh yeah, it's been a hot minute since we've
It's
done
been a
that.
hot minute since we played that.
While we're talking about timely things, yeah, let's say 2 weeks after the episode you just listened to,
Sure, that works.
whatever that is.
Sure does.
Well, I think we're
What's our
we're coming to
takeaway
the
here?
end of our time.
Yeah, what's
So
our
let's
takeaway
kinda
here? Where are we going?
summarize,
Yeah.
distill out the points.
What's our takeaway? Where are we going with this?
I desire more from my multiplayer experiences. I am, in general, quite dissatisfied with the general state of them. There's moments of light here and there, and
But at the end of the day, we're all
maybe
gonna
it's
die.
a
There's a
problem
bunch of giants
external to
outside.
the gaming thing itself, and is like having a bit more of that in my life in general would improve my feeling about playing the games.
Right, because if you have more meaningful ways of interacting with your friends outside of games,
Right.
and you also have time to also play games,
I might well feel much better about the time I spend playing games when I have those other things
And there was a
that I
certain
need and
period
want.
when you were in seminary where that was basically the only thing we could get in on
Right,
recording our
because I
podcast
was
episodes. Yeah.
not physically present.
whereas when I'm taking my Switch home for a weekend, we play maybe for like an hour and a half versus the entire rest of the weekend where I'm visiting and talking and doing whatever games around the table or whatever, you know.
Right.
It's different contexts and
Yeah.
different like comfortability with people and different like it's. But I also get what you're saying. It's like I don't look at many games that come out and I'm like, I want to play this with my immediate friend group. Because most multiplayer focused games are shooters, which I am not good at and therefore do not like because I don't play them because I'm not good at them because I don't like them. And when there is a shooter, I like it for reasons outside of the mechanics and therefore
Missing the point.
missing the point. And well, or you know,
Or
the
being
point of
willing to work
BioShock.
around it.
Right. Like I liked BioShock for reasons outside of gunplay. And that also allowed me to shoot bees at people.
Yes.
I
Make them full of bees.
I liked Doom for the combat because I didn't have to shoot. I could just shoot until they flashed, and then I could punch them. So, like, a lot of online PC games are like shooter, but multiplayer. I'm like, but I don't like shooters, and none of my friend group likes platformers enough to like want to play Mario 3D Land.
We did do that.
We did do that.
When we were all stuck in a house
Some of us had
together.
more fun than others.
Yes.
I did not have as much fun with that. It just felt so like
Yes. It was very frenetic.
chaotic, frenetic, and just
Which that's also the problem of a single-player game that has been adapted to 4 players, or a 4-player game that's been adapted to single player. It's
We were also stuck in a house together for 6 months because of
Because
COVID. Yeah.
so.
like
It was fun for
Different
that.
people have different experiences with
like-
the games, and like the sort of stuff you're talking about sounds awesome. I had one sibling. We didn't really do
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Nor did we really, as a rule, have games as
I
as
had all the
kids.
siblings. We just didn't have the games.
And I think there's a lot of potential in the space, and I really want there to be really cool stuff, like the stuff that is kind of out there, a la A Way Out, and It Takes Two, A Tale of Two Brothers, etc.
And the thing
I
is,
want more stuff like that. I want opportunities for more meaningful interaction with my friends vis-a-vis the games. And I think there's a lot of room for really cool stuff.
and the thing is, you're not going to see that in the AAA space anytime soon.
No.
What we need to do is keep our ear to the ground and our eyes to the indies to see what they come
But
up
not in
with.
a Columbus way. Like a
Right,
very...
Or maybe
Not the East Indies.
the West
Like
Indies.
if several of those become like breakout hits and like are really popular and get the attention they deserve as unique, worthwhile multiplayer experiences, then bigger studios might look and say, "Huh, there's something up with that."
Yeah.
Like they
I still don't know if that AAA games will ever get
never
the
truly
point.
fully embrace it or get it right.
But then you don't want them to do an MCU and like bastardize the genre into oblivion, you know?
Fair.
Like, so I'm okay with it not being mainstream as long as it results in some quality
as it's good.
experiences.
And you could have stuff that's not. I don't know. I think. What's that studio that did Control?
Remedy.
Remedy. I don't. Remedy makes like AAA games, but they don't have a AAA feel to them in terms of their approach to things. And
Oh, yeah.
like,
need
I
to
want
play it
Remedy
out.
to make me a multiplayer game. I don't think they ever will because that's not
No,
really their
that-
speed.
They
but
do kind of story-based single-player stuff, primarily from what it looks like.
Because it's like
get the
Control and
guys who
Alan
do
Wake, right?
A Way Out and Remedy together and
Yeah. Make
get
stuff
some
happen.
get some ideas brewed
Make
in
some
there.
magic.
Yeah.
Remedy 2, twice the adventure.
Remedy
Like, dude,
2 cough syrup.
If Remedy was a multiplayer like cooperative thing, I think there is like a Is there a multiplayer in it?
You mean,
I know it's like
And Control?
Control. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay.
There
I
might
know
be
it's like
mods
a
for
wait.
it or something, but
Okay. Like Control, but multiplayer would be kind of sick. I'd be down. But no, like, and again, that would run into the problem of it's a single player thing, but
no.
they
Control
patched
wouldn't really
two-player.
make sense
No,
as a multiplayer.
no, you can't have more.
You
than
can't have
one
more than one
director.
Jesse Faden. Yeah.
No.
Anyway.
That would just get weird. But I guess that's all we got. Yeah. Any other? Closing
Unfinished thoughts. I mean, they're coherent, but there's
We sussed some out a bit.
yeah.
Yeah, we.
I could think a lot more about this and maybe have some more defined answers, but yeah.
We had a lot of things to say in a lot of directions, but in general, we're looking for more substance and more meaning in our multiplayer experiences.
And a lot of that can be constructed by us, and that's cool, and I like that.
Right. You can insert your own kind of group enjoyment around any.
It's like, so we have
activity.
this game here. It's kind of it has X mechanics, X style, or whatever. But this is how we're going to do our group's approach to it.
Right.
There's
Like
potential.
Metopia.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
we need to get back on
Eventually
that. horse,
finish
too.
that.
Which it's the same thing. It's bros on the couch just
Doing
hanging
silly
around
voices.
around a game as like as a vehicle, the way you would a movie or
Right.
a show, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, if you have feedback on this episode, you can email us at platingpapers@gmail.com.
Questions, comments, concerns, or
Do
complaints.
you check the email ever?
Occasionally.
I have it on my phone, so anytime I get
we
an
don't.
email,
We never get emails on it.
unless
besides-
it's like updates to the terms of service from Wix.
Gotcha.
stuff like that, or whatever platform, Spotify for podcasters or what have you, things like that. But But yeah, no, and then of course, yeah, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, that good stuff. Tell your friends about the podcast, and I guess we'll talk to you again in the next episode whenever that comes out.